with this person, or with this group of people, sorry, at this particular event that was based on self improvement, we got to talking. We did quite a bit of talking, and although there were parts to this event which I didn't like, I think this place seemed to be more pleasant than I had experienced in a long while. I very unfortunately believe that where I work as a personal trainer slash fitness coach, or PTFC for short, is quite antisocial, unfortunately. Where I live has access to many nice areas, but the area itself isn't all that pleasant. Quite a bit of crime goes on around, but it's not a war zone over here. But also, there are a lot of drugs in the area. Now, I wasn't raised to be a person that is a fiend. My parents didn't raise me to be smoking or drinking, and I still haven't really. But with this environment that I'm in, I like the idea of being somewhere else, and I like the idea of traveling. Hence, I have done a lot of traveling within this year, and I have significantly clear plans, I'd say, to take that further. Because within this year, within this year's worth of time, spanning from today, on the 1st of August 2024, to August last year, I have moved to a different area, and I have been about quite a bit doing traveling, not predominantly for leisure reasons, but also to go out for my to go to what I used to call, and still call, to the secret location, to go and do my personal training related courses, or learning basically. But anyway, in this seemingly more antisocial environment compared to other places nearby, I like being elsewhere, and I think from this event I've found that there are quite a few places I could work on. There are quite a few things that I resonated with that they said to me, particularly one person I was speaking to. But I found that the one thing that I could think of in particular that they made note of was the fact that from their personality test that they did with me, that I was quite withdrawn. Now, although I've done some research on the test that I took in particular, although some people don't like it, I think that this statement, that this idea, at least in this stage of my life, holds weight, and therefore would for the rest of my life, due to this stage of my life being so early on and being a part of my life that I'll live before I do pass away. I think this statement, this idea of me being withdrawn from society, definitely holds weight, because, as I said in the part one, I think beyond my fitness coach work, I've been quite isolated, and within my fitness coach work, I've actually been more antisocial than I otherwise could have been. But I'd stay quite reserved, because it seems to me as though the environment is quite antisocial, and when I'd have such thoughts, I would think that I'm a part of the problem. I'm a part of that problem, that idea. But so be it. Perhaps I'm not as self-aware as I might think I am. I don't necessarily view myself as a self-aware person. I wouldn't necessarily explicitly state that to myself. But I definitely don't doubt that there's a lot more that I could learn about myself in my life. I think of the time which I was working with a CrossFit coach, but this is, if I remember correctly, outside of this years worth of time, going from today to spanning back to last year August, in which I learned quite a bit about myself physically, because I learned quite a bit about muscle imbalances. It just reminded me of that, but I digress. So, excluding that, I think I have not really gone to any events. I've gone to quite a few gyms, but not to do like classes or go and meet people or anything like that. In the past, from watching self-improvement based videos, I've thought that my social health isn't the best it could be, or is nowhere near it could be, is nowhere near it could be in terms of being socially healthy. But I think I've quite recently further set myself up to change that, with the help of my diary first of all, and with the help of also travelling quite a bit. Due to being around more than I have done, and having the space to do so quite conveniently compared to where I used to live, I have found areas which I think that I'd rather be in. And not only rather be in, but would rather live in. There are some spaces that I found that I definitely prefer compared to being over here, where I'm currently living, but I would rather be here than where I was living before, due to the perceived lack of opportunities. And also I've been wanting to live in such a place for quite a while, but this area in particular that I've moved in isn't what I'd like it to be completely. I think that this area has some potential for sure, and it definitely might get better over the years, but I don't think that this area I'm living in is a pleasant place to stay in completely. Not only because of its crime and because of its drugs, but also because of its seemingly antisocial behaviour, in my opinion, and also because of its aggressive driving style. Quite a few people don't ride properly, and quite a few people don't drive properly there. Quite a few cyclists that have no problem running red lights, and very unfortunately, a few cars running red lights. And if I'm not mistaken, I genuinely think I have seen some things that I'd rather never see in my life. There have been a whole load of police cars just zooming about, ambulance vehicles deafening my ears. I don't really want that, because once my natural hearing is gone, that's it. Same way with my eyesight. I wanted to make a note to say that my eyesight it seemed to have got worse significantly. It seems like when I be on the screens, my eyes can't pick up, but my eyes seem a bit more blurry, almost as if I'm a bit more teary, when I'm definitely not. Even during the day, well after I would have woken up. But perhaps that's just aging. My family, or excluding myself, all wear glasses on a regular basis, so it obviously seems as though I'm heading in that direction. And if I really don't want to wear my glasses, then if I've set aside the money to, and I've set my eyes on getting laser eye surgery, then I definitely can. But at least in this stage of my life, I don't think my eyesight is worse enough to risk being permanently blind for. I don't think it's worth it, and I don't like the idea of that. I think that's worth worrying about if I were to go and do an eye surgery, because I wouldn't necessarily know how qualified they are, and I wouldn't necessarily know how experienced they are. 1 or 2 years worth of experience within doing like a laser eye surgery sort of job, whatever their particular job title is, might not be a lot of experience. It might not be a level of experience that would be necessary to be competent in their field. Although I definitely wouldn't doubt that with such a job, you probably would have a degree or degrees to do to then be able to actually work legally anyway in that field. Anyway, outside of my eyesight, I or actually I don't want to talk about that a bit. I've been worrying. I've been worried about my eyesight, my visual acuity declining, because it's always something that I have relied on. Not necessarily something I've always felt grateful for, especially not during my teenage years, but it definitely is something that I did notice and do remember. I was even admired for my visual acuity back when I was a teenager, especially during the start of my teenage years. Maybe particularly when I was either 13 or 14 and I was able to read notes from the back of the class with extreme ease, because I didn't really have any refractive errors in my eyes at that time. I remember doing an eyesight test around about that age back then, or maybe even a few years prior, and I had no problems. But now that definitely isn't the case. My eyesight's quite blurry, and in order to have crystal clear vision like how I did back within that stage of my life, I need glasses. My vision's not 20/20 anymore. But I think I'd rather be at that age. I'd rather be at this age than be dead. Although sometimes I wouldn't think that way. When I wouldn't be doing what I plan to be doing, it just seems as though this way of life is just not worth living. Now, I definitely have had dark thoughts in the past, and particularly in April, if I remember correctly, but I don't know if that was April this year or April last year, but I think I'm currently getting myself together enough to a point where I'd at least experience that less, and I'd experience it in waves, such dark thoughts in waves, but in significantly lighter waves.